Fusion Mobile, quality e-learning experience on the go.
Okay, I'm Oshito Molajide, aka Smoking Brain, and I happen to be a biology tutor. I welcome you to this particular session. A wonderful session is going to be. As you all know, this whole program is powered by Fusion Mobile E-Learning Center. And today under biology, we will be looking at the relevance of biology to agriculture. The word relevance talks about importance, it talks about benefits, it talks about advantages. So we can simply say the advantages of biology to agriculture. Now, biology is a concept, agriculture is another concept. Are you doing? So basically on this, we'll be looking at the following outlines: classification of plants, effect of agricultural activities on the ecosystem or on ecology as case may be, the pest of crops, diseases, agents of disease, and we'll be looking at food preservational method. So follow me closely and make sure you don't miss anything. So now, classification of plants. Plants are basically classified into two. One is based on their life cycle, while the other one is based on their agricultural classification. Agricultural classification. Now, what do I mean by agricultural classification? I meant based on the category they belong to and based on the nutrient that is being derived from them. So when you classify plants based on life cycle, we have the basic ones which are annual crops, biennial crops, and we have what we call the perennial. But it's sufficient to say that we have what we call ephemerals as well. So quickly look at this as I take you through this. Now, annual crops are crops that grow and mature within 1 year. Their life cycle ends within a particular year. A very good example is your maize, your rice, your millet, etc. They grow and mature within 1 year. They undergo horticultural maturity and physiological maturity in a particular year. While the biennial crops that grow and mature within 2 years. Example is your onion, your pepper, your ginger, etc. Now, what the perennial plants? These are plants that grow and mature for more than 2 years, and some of them will stay for longer years. So for the perennial, we have the cocoa, we have the rubber, etc. We also have the mango as well. So they are all under perennial. So then what are ephemerals? This is actually a new concept. No, it is not a new concept. It has always been, just that you haven't seen it. Now, ephemerals are crops that grow and mature within several weeks. Or within several weeks. Now, why annual speaks of a year, this one speaks of what? Weeks. Are you with me? Now, a very good example of your ephemeral is what we call your tomato. Your ephemeral, those plants that you see that under 3 days are grown, before you know, under weeks they are done. So ephemerals is actually under annual, but it is suffice to say that ephemerals are capable of standing alone. Are you with me? Are capable of standing alone. So basically, we have ephemerals, we have perennial, we have biennial, and we have annual. Now let's quickly move to the other segment: agricultural classification of crops. Agricultural classification of crops. Now, based on this, what we call the cereals. Now, cereals are plants that gives the body starch. They contain starch. Cereals, they contain what we call starch. They are also called grains. E.g. your millet, your maize, your rice, and all that. So they are called cereals or grains. What we call the legumes. Now, one thing about legumes is that they have pods. It is because of their pods that they are called legumes. A very good example is the bean. They are proteinous in nature, while this one they are starchy in nature. So aside from legumes, we also have what we call oil plants. Now, these are plants that happens to be a good source of oil, just like your oil palm or your palm oil, your groundnut, your castor oil, which is Rhizobium communis, and every other thing you could think of. So aside from oil plants, what we call the latex plants. Now, this plant happens to be a very good source of gum. The latex plant, they are very good source of gum. Aside from one particular tree where you can get latest from is your dongoyaro, neem tree, as the director indica. So you can get your latest from there. So aside from latest plants, we have what we call our pulses. Now our pulses are what we call your tomato. Your tomato fall under pulses. However, they are also called spices, but this is their major group. So aside from pulses, what we call the spices. Now spices are just like seasoners. They help to add flavor to our food. Spices just like your onion, your ginger, zingiber, officinally, and every other thing, your carrot, dacus carota, that could help you spice your food, change the taste of your food, nurture the taste of your food, and bring it to the peak of all taste. So basically we have series, we have legumes, we have oil plants, we have latest plants, we have pulses, we have spices, and what else do we have? Okay, we have beverage plants. Beverage plants are basically plants that have stimulating effect. They are plants that have stimulating effect. A very good example is your cocoa, your coffee, and your tea as well. And now I need to quickly correct a misinterpretation. Now many of you this morning you took bread, you took cowbell, as well as you took hot water. Then at the end of the day you made use of Milo. And so while walking on the street, someone walks up to you and asks you, and they ask you, young man, what did you eat this morning? And you said, okay, I ate bread and tea. And man was like, wow, that's cool. But permit me to say that you did not take bread and tea. You actually took bread, cowbell, Milo, and hot water. Did you just say, boy, it's tea? Yes, it's not tea. Relax, I will explain it to you. And now Milo is a variety of cocoa. Milo again is a variety of cocoa. Milo is not tea. So obviously you took bread and cocoa. Are you with me? You took bread, cocoa, and milk. Now you only take, now there's something I want to say. Tea is a plant in itself. Tea is not Milo. Tea is not Bonvita. Tea is a plant in itself. I don't know if you've heard of tea plant before. It's actually predominant in Brazilian areas and all that. Now tea is a plant in itself. A variety of tea is your Lipton tea, your top tea. Now if you take that, you can say boldly that you took tea. But if you take Milo or Bonvita, it is not tea, it is cocoa. You took bread and what? Cocoa. Thank you for taking that correction. Okay, so I said beverages have stimulating effect. Now aside from beverages, we also have other ones. We have one particular one that is called fiber crop. Now this crop can be processed into clothing material. They can be gotten from sisal, they can be gotten from Indian hemp, cannabis, Indian hemp. They can be gotten from it. The material can be used for fiber crop. They can also, cotton is also a very good source of the fiber crop. So aside from this, what else do we have? Okay, lastly, I will talk about fruit. We have what we call fruit. We have what we call fruit. And now our fruit examples of fruit, we have pawpaw, we have orange, what else? Orange, we have guava, etc. Now all these supplies the body with vitamins. So those are the things you need to know under agricultural classification of plants. So now that we're done with classification of plants, we would quickly be looking at the effect of agricultural activities on the ecosystem. Okay, so now we'll be looking at the effect of agricultural activities on the ecosystem. Now one is bush burning. Bush burning, the setting of fire on bushes. Now one thing it does is this: it kills the microorganisms that are there. It exposes the surface of the soil. Even aside that, bush burning changes the structure or the texture of the soil, and that is bad for the soil. So bush burning, when it is not controlled, is indiscriminate and it is bad. Deforestation. Deforestation is basically the falling down of trees. Trees that are planted, when you fall them down, are you with me? Without planting another, it is called deforestation. The falling down of trees. We have fertilizer application. Now fertilizer application is there to boost the growth of our plant. Fertilizer application could either be natural source or artificial artificial source. Natural source could be poultry droppings, it could be dungs, it could be waste from poultry, as I said earlier, poultry dropping, or fertilizer application could be artificial one that is called the NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, NPK, and it has its own ratio as well. So we have pesticides and herbicide application. Now the way and manner by which we apply our pesticide and herbicide will in one way or the other affect our environment. Now pesticides are chemicals that are used in controlling, or simply say in destroying pests. Herbicides are chemicals that are used in restricting the growth of plants. They can also be used to destroy unwanted plants such as weeds. We have monocropping. These are farming systems that also have effect on our ecosystem. Monocropping simply means planting only one type of crop. What it does is it makes use of the nutrient. It depletes the nutrients in the soil. Crop rotation. Now crop rotation simply means the planting of different types of crop in a systematic manner. It is very good. It helps in fixing nitrogen in the soil. However, for crop rotation to be done, there is a need for technical know-how. Now mixed farming talks about what? Integrating the planting of crops with rearing of animals. The implication of this is this: if it is not monitored, the animals can easily encroach on the farmland and feed on your maize, and the farmer is at loss. And definitely something could also happen to the ecosystem, because when they get it, they could uproot the plant. Even the way they step on the soil, on the grasses, could make them compact, and that is not so good. So basically now we'll be moving on to pests of crops, and we'll be looking at the different agents of pests, the different groups of pests, as the case may be. Pests. Now anything that destroys our crop is known as pests. Pests are organisms. Simply say pests are animals. You have to be specific. Pests are animals that destroy our crops. Now what are the groups of pests that we have? We have birds. Birds are there, they destroy our crops. We have insects. Insects are there. Aside from insects, we've got animals. Animals here, you could include man as part of it. Okay, animals here, you could include man as part of it. So aside from birds, insects, animals, we also have other groups that are very, very essential, and they are there for destroying our crops. So let's quickly take a look at these groups of pests that we have. So these are the groups of pests that we have. We have birds. Birds are generally called apes, or aves, as the pronunciation might suit you. Apes. So these are birds. They are called birds. Are you with me? So birds are actually pests of crops as well. We have insects. Insects are pests of crops as well. The insects are subdivided into three. We have biting and chewing insects. They make use of their mandible and their maxilla. The maxilla is the upper part of the mouth. The mandible is the lower part. So they make use of this jaw to feed on anything they need to consume. Aside from that, we have the piercing and sucking insect. They make use of a specialized organ which is called the proboscis. The proboscis. So they make use of this. Then lastly, we have the boring insect. These ones they bore through the larva stage of crops. They bore through the larva stages anyway. So boring insect, just like the maize weevil and all that, those are examples of boring insect. So for animals, we have monkeys. They are also a pest of our crop. We have nematodes. They happen to be a pest of our crop as well. A man himself is a pest of crops. The way we feed on those things indiscriminately, some people go in and they pick crops that doesn't even belong to them. And lastly, we have rodents. Rodent talks about rats, rabbits, and all that. So they are all what? Groups of pests. So now we'll be looking at diseases. But before we go into disease, I would like us to look at the various ways by which you can control all these pests. Now, one of the ways by which you can control birds is by spraying herbicide. You can use herbicide to chase them away, or you make use of what we call the scarecrow. The scarecrow is a particular structure you just put on your farmland like a cross stuff. It stands like this, and when they see it, they feel it is somebody and they run away. So this is called a scarecrow. It is used mostly even in horror movies. If you're familiar with horror movies, you would actually see there. So for insect, you can spray what we call insecticide. For insects, you can spray what we call what? Insecticide. Now, for your nematode, you can spray what we call nematicide. For rodents, you can spray what we call rodenticide. Now, all these herbicide, insecticide, rodenticide, and nematicide that I've mentioned earlier are all chemical ways of controlling pests. They are chemical ways. Now, there's also what we call the biological way. We have the chemical and we have the biological. Biological simply involve the use of their natural enemies. Okay, you have a particular insect that is disturbing your plant. What do? You look for a bigger organism that can feed on it. So when the organism get there, it feed on the insect, and that's all. But that is not all. The problem is this: after the organism has finished feeding on this insect, and there is no insect again on that farmland, or there is no insect within its reach, it will now turn the animal will now turn to your plant and start feeding on it. So that is the disadvantage here. But those are biological methods, the use of natural enemies. What we call the physical method, this simply means setting of traps, the use of baits to control their growth or their movement on the farmland. And we also have the use of, I think I've explained that. So basically we have chemical, we have biological, we have physical method. So those are the method of controlling pests. So now we'll quickly move and we'll look at disease. Disease is an abnormal deviation, or it's a deviation from a normal state of health to an abnormal state of health. Now it talks about an organism being in a sickly state. It talks about an organism being in a sickly state. Now diseases mostly are associated with symptoms. There are some symptoms that when you see, you can say, of the truth, this person is suffering from a particular type of disease, or this plant is suffering from a particular type of disease. Now what are the agents of disease? The agents of diseases are virus, bacteria, as we mentioned earlier. Now we have nematode, we have nutritional deficiency. That is, there are some deficiency that could make a body to get into a sickly state. So we have virus, we have bacteria, we have nematode, we have nutritional deficiency, and we have protozoa as well. These are agents of diseases. Now how do you control disease? We have biological, how do you control disease? We have the use of drugs by actually annihilating or clearing away the source of the disease by kicking against the contaminant, so to speak. So now we'll be looking at food preservation, and that will be the last outline for today. Food preservation. Now, food preservation could also be called preservation of agricultural produce. It is not only food as in food, it could be raw materials as in raw food, as the case may be. So the various ways by which we can preserve our food are: number one, we have canning. You can can them, as the case of sardine. We have sardine, and we have other food materials that have been canned. We have canning, we have refrigerating. Now it could actually be refrigerated as well, and that is, you tend to cool it to a particular temperature. While refrigerating, what we call smoking, just like the way you smoke your fish, you smoke it. So we've got smoking, we've got canning, what we call salting. You salt it so as to inactivate any bacteria on it. Aside from salting, what we call drying. This is natural drying. You actually spread it in the sun. That is drying, salting, smoking, refrigerating, and canning. Aside from this, we also have other methods that you could actually use in preserving your food material, but these are the basic one: canning, refrigerating, smoking, salting, and drying. Agriculturally speaking, food produce or agricultural produce can be kept in barns, in room box, in silos as well. So can we just take a look at the outline? Now, so far we talked on classification of plants, how to classify plants based on their life cycle. We looked at annual crop, perennial crop, biennial crop, and we look at ephemeras, a new concept. Well, I'm quite sure you get the gist concerning it. Then we look at classification of plants based on agriculture, and we said we have pulses, we have legumes, we have cereals, we have oil plants, we have latex plants, and all that. Then we quickly move further and we look at the effect of agricultural activities. We look at bush burning, we look at crop rotation, and I want to know that crop rotation helps in controlling erosion. It helps in keeping erosion in check. And then from there we look at pests of crops. I said pests is anything that destroy our crops. And the various pests of crops, we have insects, we've got animals, we have monkeys, we have birds, and all that. I said they can be controlled chemically, biologically, or what? Physically. Then we look at disease. I said disease is deviation from the normal state of health to an abnormal state, or an organism exhibiting a sickly state. Then we look at the agent of disease. We look at nematode, mold, we look at virus, we look at bacteria and the likes. Then lastly, we look at food preservation. I said they can be preserved by canning, putting them in can, refrigerating in your fridge, smoking, when you burn them to a particular degree, salting, when you add salt to it in order to annihilate every bacterial growth on it, and drying, you can actually spread them naturally. Then I said agriculturally, crops can be stored in barns, in roombos, and in silos. Now it's been a great time out with you. A question will pop up on your screen as usual. I'll try as much as possible to attempt it. And now I must confess, it's been a wonderful time out with you. Gracias.